Welcome to the One Gang Worldwide podcast, your ultimate ride into the world of motorcycles. Visit cyclesworldwide.com where we offer a completely free marketplace for everything motorcycles. Join our One Gang community where you can connect, share info, and swap stories with riders from all over the world. Join for free at cyclesworldwide.com and be a part of the One Gang community right now.
On today's episode of the One Gang Worldwide podcast, we're joined by Bill Benson from Road Docs. Bill and his team play a crucial role in the biking community after founding a club dedicated to healthcare professionals. Bill will share the backstory of Road Docs, the challenges and rewards of getting the club off the ground, and the importance of having medical professionals integrated within the biking community. So let's learn about the lifelines of the road with Bill Benson, right here on the One Gang podcast.
Yeah, there was a lot of pushback, especially as the club started to grow. Like, you guys don't belong. You cannot be, have your own club. It has to be, your fire or your law enforcement.
Hey, One Gang, if you enjoy the podcast, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You can turn notifications on to hear when new episodes are dropped too. Any of your engagement supports the show and helps us book great guests and keeps us going. If you or a friend would make a great guest, hit us up at cyclesworldwide.com or drop a comment. Thank you guys so much.
One Gang Worldwide podcast, brought to you by Keyboard Motorcycle Shipping. Since 1978, Keyboard Motorcycle Shipping has been the trusted name in transporting motorcycles safely across the country. With custom-designed pallets and air ride trailers, your bike is secure and protected every step of the way. By choosing Keyboard Motorcycle Shipping, you're supporting a dedicated small business that prioritizes quality and customer satisfaction. Ship with a peace of mind, knowing your motorcycle is in expert hands.
Please visit shippingmymotorcycle.com. That's shippingmymotorcycle.com. And now, back to our show.
Hey, One Gang, today we've got Bill Benson on the episode. We're excited to have him of EMS Road Docs. It's going to be a really cool conversation today. Bill, thanks for joining us. We are looking forward to hearing about this movement and this cause that you're behind.
Thank you for having me.
Bill, thanks for coming on, buddy. This is going to be a great show. So I guess we'll do like we do every other show. We start off basically getting a chance to get to know you a little bit. So let's start with the early life. Where did you grow up and what was some of your early passions?
So I grew up around the Janesville, Wisconsin area. That's kind of where I grew up in. As far as like passions and stuff like that, I played a lot of basketball, and the other thing was too, I liked to ride motorcycles even when I was a kid.
Nice.
So that's kind of a thing. In fact, I remember the old, my dad had bought me a Kawasaki 100 dirt bike, and that thing was.
How old were you?
I couldn't even tell you how old I was. I was just a young kid. In fact, I still remember the first time I let go of the clutch on that bike. My dad had planted 3 trees in the backyard, and I let go of the clutch, and I promptly hit all 3 of his trees and broke the So how's that for an early childhood memory?
He still likes motorcycles. That says something.
I know, right? Yeah, in fact, I remember going out because my dad would take me there was a kind of a gravel pit between Janesville and Beloit. And he would take me and the motorcycle out there, and I would ride for hours and hours out there. It's just big, huge place with lots of trails.
Oh, man.
Even back in the day, there was, it's still going, actually. There was a Astalon racetrack in Wisconsin, and I would go around there and kind of putt around. Now, I was not to that level. Like some of those kids were pretty good on their bikes, but maybe I just enjoyed. And then my dad would take me also up north around the Stratford area, and I would go hit the trails back there if there were trails.
Right.
Or my own.
Forging trails, trailblazing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow. Did your passion just start, you're running into trees and and having adventures as a kid? Did you find a moment where in your early life it really popped for you and you realized, man, this is something I really love, or was it just kind of bred into you, the love of motorcycles?
I think it was, I guess I had always just been kind of drawn to being on two wheels. Because even, like I said, the best times I remember is just being on that motorcycle and cruising along, and it was just me and the bike, and that's all you would do is just listen to that motorcycle. There was
Yep.
something about that sound that was
yeah.
just, it was just a passion for me.
Did you continue to ride as you got older in regards to like through high school and college?
Yeah. So, I started off, like I just said, on dirt bikes. And then from there, I ended up, my first street bike was Honda 750 Interceptor. It was the first year
Nice.
they made that
That's
white
a
and
great
blue.
bike.
Yeah, right. It was a great bike.
Great bike.
It was my high school bike. And even when I went into the military, I ended up having that shipped over.
Nice.
And so I could, continue to ride on it. And everybody, would kind of walk around the base. Yeah, not me. I would jump on my bike and go someplace. It was just the way it was. In fact, I'm still trying to find that motorcycle. I would love to buy one just to have it.
Right. Like a nice. Yeah. It's awesome. You see them from time to time, and they're bringing pretty good money too for used ones, older ones. So
Yes, they are.
the Japanese market value has definitely increased.
It certainly has. Yeah. And those bikes, especially with the full fairing, it was the first one with the full fairing. Yeah, you just don't see a lot of those bikes anymore. But yeah, that was my first. And then I got into the cruisers and kind of went through the whole evolution of, you start off with kind of the Honda Shadows, the Magnas, the
Right.
Coyotes, the Vulcans, and stuff like that. And it just kind of kept going and going and going.
Yeah, for
All
sure.
I got 3 Harleys.
You got 3 Harleys now?
Right on.
Yeah, I have 3 Harleys.
Nice.
Yeah.
We'll get into those a little bit later in the show.
Yeah.
Then I'm intrigued now. All right, cool. Hey, so
Little
listen,
over the store.
you went into the service, and your background is as a flight nurse, right?
No, most of my background is actually ER.
ER.
That
Okay.
spent the majority of my time was in the emergency department.
What drew you to the medical field?
S So there was actually a couple of things. So my mom actually worked at Mercy Hospital in Janesville, and she, always would bring home stories. Plus, then I would get to go there occasionally and hang out. And I remember B. Toller. She was the hospital supervisor, so she was running the place, and just the nicest lady. And then kind of a crazy story. I ended up getting sick as a kid. I had this terrible staph infection and ended up going up my arms, and it was starting to crawl on my face and stuff
Wow.
like that.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was, it was not good, but the nurses were always coming in doing all the dressing changes on me and stuff like that. And, B. Toller was kind of like, I think you need to maybe go, up to Madison and have them look at you. So, yeah, she was so in tune with everything. It was pretty amazing. And
Yeah.
it kind of got me kind of inspired to go into the medical field. And then the military, I was medical in there too.
You're there. Where were you stationed?
So I was stationed at Wichita Falls in Texas at Shepherd Air Force Base. Crazy part was, though, I was not a nurse. I actually went into lab, and most of my time in there, I was actually microbiology.
Got
Oh, cool.
Yeah, not a lot of people want to hang out with the guy that plays with the bug.
Yeah, but you rode a motorcycle, so I'm sure a lot of people still hung out.
A little bit.
All right. So after that phase, in 2011, you decided to start EMS Road Docs, focusing on providing services for healthcare providers, EMS guys, and with a focus on PTSD. And can you go into a little bit about what inspired you to start that and kind of what planted that seed in you?
So the beginning of the of the road docs was actually, there was not a whole lot of focus to it. I mean, it wasn't about PTSD. It wasn't about anything like that. Um, I actually, that's when I got my first Harley was back then. And I had a big bagger, and I was talking to a guy. I was actually running an immediate care center at that point in time. And I met this guy, and he was like, yeah, I'm part of this club. I've got a Harley. You know how people start talking about their
Sure, of course.
motorcycles, and it
Yeah.
just kind of draws you into this whole conversation. So he was a part of this, well, I guess it would be an LE club. And so he's like, hey, you want to come over and, come to one of our meetings? And I did. And as I was sitting there listening to these guys, I'm like, yeah, this is great. I have nothing in common with you at all. One thing, they're just talking about their day, at the jail.
Right, right.
Had nothing to do with, anything that, I guess it would be cool to, have the patch, but it was like, that's just not me. So that was kind of the idea, was to, I need to be around people that are, more like me in the medical field. They think like I do. So
Right.
I had reached out to a club, and there was no response. So when I started to look into it even more, I'm like, there's just not a lot of medical clubs. So then it was me coming up with, kind of the road docs.
What were you running into as far as the clubs were concerned? I mean, you were looking in the area where you live, so you can be closer and ride with the club. But what type of clubs were you running into that just you weren't fitting in?
It could be any of them. I mean, really, I had nothing in common with LEs, and I had nothing in common with, the fire clubs. They do the kind of their own thing. And, obviously having a medical license doesn't let you join or some other clubs. So I was kind of like, I got to be very, very careful of what I do because I have a state license.
Right.
So, yeah. And like I said, I did reach out to a club. They weren't even in my area. I was just hoping to maybe I could, get something going in our area, but there was just, like I said, no response, and there was no other medical clubs out there. So that's how I just decided one night. I was like, you know what? I got in front of the computer. I know a little bit about computer graphics. I know a little bit, but I know enough to be dangerous with a lot of things, apparently. So I was just kind of messing around, and I created that patch, with Sawbones on there, or Doc Dex. He's got two names.
Well, what was the
And
inspiration behind that? Like, because using a skeleton, bone saw, and a syringe, how'd you come up with that idea as far as to create something that was kind of like, let's just call it badass looking, but yet it's really meant in a good way?
yeah, so the idea behind him was, everybody especially every kid that comes in, they always have the worst fear of, going to the doctor, going to the emergency department, going to see anybody in healthcare. Just brings out, am I good? You can just hear it out of every kid. Am I going to get a shot?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So everybody has that fear. And that's kind of where I was like, hey, that's kind of the idea. And then I was like, well, you know what? We'll kind of make him like a skeleton, but he's still maybe not quite as intimidating as what people would think. So usually, hopefully they look at the patch and kind of think, oh yeah, that's the way I used to think when I was going to see the doctor, that he was going to, this horrible
Right.
coming out with a saw and a syringe. And And then by the time they meet me, you know, they're like, oh, you know what, this guy, he's not like that at all. And they have a good experience.
That's
So
cool.
it's kind of a two-phase thing on that one.
That is funny. It's funny that all three of my kids, since they were babies, old enough to talk, it was like, all right, we've got your appointment. And it's, maybe it's an annual checkup. But the very first thing every single time is, do I have to get any shots? Are there going to be shots, Dad?
Right.
You know, even when you go out to the waiting room in the emergency department, you hear the same thing out of these poor kids, or when you're bringing them into triage to sit them down and talk to them, you know, you're already, a big person in their eyes. And then, you're kind of coming across as intimidating. And yeah, they're always asking like,
Sure.
oh,
Right.
They're looking for your needle.
right.
So what were some of the initial challenges you faced with EMS Road Docs? Were there any roadblocks or resistances as you were creating?
Oh my God, it was terrible.
Wow.
The first things that I started to hear was, especially as the club started to grow, was, you're medical, you can't have a club. You have to be a part of a fire club, or you have to be part of law enforcement. And
Are you hearing this from the motorcycle guys?
Yes.
Like the motorcycle community? Okay. All right. Because I'm
Yep.
curious also what the healthcare field also had to say about it. I want to know what you got from both angles.
Oh, you mean from my coworkers?
Well, no.
Yeah.
Well, let's go into that. Let's continue talking about getting the
Yeah.
club formed and the resistance you were having. Let's get into that first.
So yeah, there was a lot of pushback, especially as the club started to grow. Like, you guys don't belong. You cannot be, have your own club. It has to be, your fire or your law enforcement. I think that was one of the driving forces in me that really started to just kind of get under my skin, because even as the club started to grow, I mean, look at Harley Davidson. They have a law enforcement bike, right?
Right.
Right.
They have a fire bike too, don't they?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you hear stuff, it's always, like, especially out in New York, it's the finest. It's the brave.
Right,
what's
right.
helping?
Good point.
Are we just nothing?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Great
So,
point.
yeah, that was part of, the driving force with a lot of this. And then if you want to jump over to my coworkers, which they think I'm crazy anyway.
So you had nothing to worry about.
Right. So, they were kind of like, oh, that, I think kind of like with everything, when it first starts off, they just think you're kind of crazy. And now, they've
Yeah.
seen how big the club is, and it's not that it's super huge. I mean, it's a club, but it's in different states and all over the place. So they're kind of like, wow, that's actually, very cool. Now, could you wear a helmet when you ride? Sure.
Right.
I do add on backwards. It's all good.
Hey, Bill, quick question on, I wanted to follow up a little bit about what you were talking about, the resistance. Obviously, they tend to kind of merge EMT and medical with the fire department. So even though they don't really mention you guys, it's more of a fire bike than it is, EMT bike. But there's a procedure that you have to do to register a club, correct?
There's a lot of different things that you have to do, and mostly you've got to go around and actually, talk to a lot of the clubs.
So can you take us a little bit into the journey of forming that? Because I think this is a very important part of this. There's a lot of people who start different clubs, whether it's a riding club or a motorcycle club, MC or RC. But give us a little bit of a background, like take us into, all right, you formed this club. This is what your goal was to form this club. Take us through the journey of sitting down with others. You said there was resistance, but just take us on the world tour that you had to go through in order to be able to legally get that club off the ground.
So a lot of it had to do with, especially kind of your bigger clubs in your area. So I had the perfect guy that was with me. Unfortunately, he passed away, but his name was Larry Gray. He was just this huge monster of a man. And he was your prototypical biker, looked like it, lived the lifestyle, and he was a EMT with down in Chicago. So he was on a box that was very, very busy all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So he was the one that would actually go out and really talk to the other clubs. And mostly, like we didn't have to talk to, like LEs and fire and stuff like that, but a lot of your dominant type clubs, and he had good relations with them. So he would sit down and talk to them. And, the crazy part is they were the most receptive of our club.
Wow.
They were the ones that like, oh yeah, you know what? That's really cool. And every single one of them was actually like, that back patch, awesome. So there was a lot to that. And then of course you have to go through, and like I said, when I first started this club, I didn't, it was just me. So I honestly thought that I was just going to have my patch. I was going to ride by myself and everything was just going to be just fine.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, it was like a mushroom cloud. It was all of a sudden I've got people, coming at me from Texas and Oklahoma and just all over the place. And I didn't really know what I was getting into because my background is not business. My background is medical.
Right.
Right.
And I'm not trying to, in medicine, I don't have to sell you anything. You have to come to me. So yeah, there was a big growing process that goes into it, all the trademarking and all of that kind of stuff. Even when you start to go into Europe, there's a lot of stuff over there that they want to know about, with your club coming in. I think the biggest blessing part of it is we were medical.
Right.
So they obviously weren't trying to do,
Right. Step on anybody's toes type of stuff. Yeah. So your organization bridges healthcare and motorcycling together. You guys are open to both men and women from the healthcare world.
As long as you've got a state license, you're good to be a part of this club. It's kind of a hard club to get into, like everybody, you hear this prototypical bikers always talk about, well, you have to earn your patches.
Right.
You actually have to earn your patches twice with us because you have to have a medical license. So you have to be, with the state somehow.
Licensed. Yep.
Yeah. And then from there, then you're going to go through and you're going to hang around with the club. You're going to go through the prospect, and that's usually a year just to, see if we're going to let you into the club.
Really? So you have a year probationary period, and then they go out on the rides with you guys, and then you kind of see if their personalities kind of fit with what you're planning to do. And is that how you go about building this community?
Yeah, obviously it didn't start that way because, it was brand new, and it was just exciting that somebody would look at the patch and go, oh, that's so cool. I want to be a part of this.
Right.
So, so it kind of built like, it'd be people reaching out and we'd sit and talk to them for a little bit, and then they would just kind of get their patches. But then you start to let in people and you've got personalities, it can become quite consuming. And like I said, some people they're difficult. And especially when you deal with healthcare people, they're very difficult to get along with. They're kind of rogue people that, they're kind of gypsies. They're very, very strong personalities, ER, ICU, those personalities are something else to deal with.
Gotcha.
Even, paramedics, stuff like that, they will literally eat their young. So it was, you got to make sure that you're bringing in the right people. And as the club grew, like I said, it mushroomed, like out of the starting box. It just grew so big, so fast, and I didn't have a grasp on what I was actually doing. So that's when I started to bring in some other people, and then we started to get it more organized. And as the club has, gone through its evolution, which is still going through its evolution. Even if you think you have everything worked out, you don't. We've grown quite a bit, and now it's, gone from, God, we'd love to have you be a part of this organization to, you're going to have to kind of want to be a part of this organization. You're going to have to want to be in this club. And it's not what the club can do for you. It's what you can actually do for your club.
Right.
And what can you bring to the table? A lot of people come in with some crazy, crazy ideas of, what the club should do for them.
Gotcha.
And it's
Like what?
not how it works.
Like helping them find job placement, or what kind of
Right. Like,
craziness are they
exactly.
coming at you
What kind of, that's an interesting question, Ben.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because you'll sit there and, you get the vagabond that can't hold a job. And then he's looking at everybody like, hey, I need handouts. Hey,
Yeah.
I need a job, can you hook me up at my, at an ambulance, and you're like, you're like totally in another state.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, if you can't hold down a job, I mean, that's kind of some red flags right there. Yeah. And
Right. And you want me to stick my neck out for you when you can't hold down the job that you currently have? Not happening.
I mean, I've got a whole reputation to protect too. And this is part of that, like
Sure.
you have a state license, you're a professional, there's a lot of things that are looking you in the face when you start just putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there was crazy stuff. Even people would be like, God, like I've been with the club for 2 weeks. I got put in the hospital for a few days and you guys didn't give me any money. And it was like, what?
Oh gosh.
You know,
Oh man.
like, no, that's just, I'm sorry, dude. That's just not how it works.
That's not
But,
how it works.
these are some of the ideas that people come with. And I don't know where they get their ideas, but
Right.
I think a lot of times common sense goes right out the window.
Yeah. And entitlement and selfishness steps in to fill that void.
Yeah,
That's it.
there's a lot of it. And it's not just from healthcare people. I mean, it's everybody. But yeah, and it's amazing what they bring to the table and some of the stuff that you hear. You're just like, oh my goodness. It's like, being in the ER, some of the people that come into the emergency department, you're just like, oh, and that's what brought you in today. Okay. And unfortunately, you can get that same stuff with, people joining clubs too. They come in for kind of different reasons.
Yeah. They're looking for handouts or how the club can serve them instead of what you had mentioned. What can you bring to the table?
Yeah, exactly.
And that hurts the community aspect of it too.
Yeah, I think it does. And, you don't get into medicine because of, what it can do for you. You get into medicine
Right.
to help others. I'm like, you're totally missing the point of all of this. Like you have the star of life on your back and you seem to be missing, what's really going on. Like, think about what you're saying.
Right.
That's counterintuitive and pretty surprising, but I'm sure you have a lot of good that outweighs the bad as well with lots of good folks in the industry.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like there's only been like a few, kind of bad apples that have come in, but that's with every club. And, it's hard to govern
Absolutely.
people that are in different places and states and stuff like that. But, as the club is growing, like these are like lifelong friends now.
Right.
Like this is amazing. We have, regional events. So it'll be like, Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan all have kind of their regional event down south, east, whatever. But we have ours and it's a blast, man. Like it is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's, we all know each other. We know everybody's wives. We know everything, we sit down. I literally, once I get done with a regional event, I just can't wait for the next one just to go and see the guys and hang out with them and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes about the club.
Oh,
That's really
God.
cool.
We have our national event is coming up in October, and we're going to be going down to Texas. We always plan it out so it's 2 years in advance. We always know where we're going.
Right.
It's everything like that. But yeah, oh my God, I cannot wait to go and see, like the boys down in Texas and stuff. And, the club has really just brought so many people together, and we've got just such a great group of people now.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and it feels good. Yeah, and it's a blast.
That's
The
what,
best
so
part
the
is,
national event, is that open? Is that club members only, or is that open to people that are interested in it, or how do those events work?
so we actually do allow people that are interested. We have actually, there's a doctor and a nurse out of Wisconsin that are going to head down. They don't know anything about the club. They just kind of heard about it from one of the nurses. Uh,
Mhm.
that's part of the club. And so they're going to head down to Texas and be a part of all of it. Obviously there's club business, that takes place that we don't have, anybody just sit in there. That's only patch holders
Gotcha.
can go for, like, the club business and stuff. And this is actually kind of again, this is going to be kind of exciting because, our national president he served 8 years and he's going to step down, and we've got elections going. So it's kind of fun. We're going to see who's going to be our next national president.
Are you
and stuff.
throwing your hat in a ring?
Now, I've already done that, been there and all that kind of stuff. I have this kind of, in the way I look at things is, I think your voice can only go so far where people will listen to you. Um,
Mhm.
and then after that, you're just kind of, I think you sound like Charlie Brown's teacher, that wah, wah, wah.
Yeah. Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. And it's good to get other people's ideas in there and perspectives. So we've had a few different national presidents, and everybody brings in their own perspective, and it's kind of fun to see where the club, what direction it will
Right,
go,
right.
what their thoughts are, because, sometimes you're looking at them and you're kind of like, I've had to deal with all of that, as, when I started it and the founder and the national president, you're kind of like, oh yeah, I've dealt with that. And sometimes they'll come and talk to you. Sometimes they won't. Um, but then all of a sudden you'll see them take off and they'll come up with a new idea. And it was like, and you're just sitting there like, that is fantastic. That is
Yeah. How
absolutely
did we not think of
fantastic.
that?
I love it. And I mean, really, when you look at it, because that scholarship stuff that, I've mentioned, I mean, that kind of came out of the club. That was, like I said, that was not the start of the club.
Right.
And all PTSD and all of that, that was
That
never,
goes into the next question I have
yeah,
for you, actually.
go.
Because I'm gonna interrupt you. Sorry, but we were talking about that earlier. You said that PTSD was not even on the radar when you guys first started. And then also for the scholarship, that was before the recording, so we'll make sure we get into that more thoroughly. But with the PTSD, how did that come about? How did you get so hyper focused on that? And then what initiatives do you have to provide support in that arena?
So, the whole PTSD stuff started, the whole scholarship and the PTSD really kind of fall in together. So the PTSD was something that, out of Texas, one of the guys down there, Guy Minshaw, was, into it. He's a paramedic. He's a flight medic. And it was like, oh, yeah, that is something we should really start to look at. It's something, as an ER nurse, you never think about that stuff, because you're just hyper focused on, when you're at work, you may go in and see a gunshot or something like that, and then just have to walk out to the next person and you just keep going.
Right.
And he started to talk about, like, hey, there's a lot of people that are, that are in healthcare and they're not okay. And it was like, yeah, you know what? And then it was like, yeah, this is something that we really need to get behind and start working on it. So then we started to reach out to Code Green, was one. There was also a police officer around this there that had committed suicide, and They had started a foundation, so we ended up getting behind them. And so we've been kind of donating all of our, we do rides and stuff like that. And I
To
remember,
raise money.
yeah, to give to anything that will help with PTSD and first responders and even your healthcare people. Because it's not just, the first responders. I mean, it's even the people in the hospitals,
Of
because
course.
in the emergency room, you see a lot of stuff. And then let's say if they do make it to the floor, then you've got those nurses up there that are taking care of these people that could be, weeks, months, who knows how long they'll be in the hospital. So,
Right.
yeah, everybody sees quite a bit of stuff. And then, we, we did have an incident that actually happened, within our club. And, so we had one of our guys that was actually going to, work on his motorcycle, had his patches on. He loved the club thoroughly. And, it was apparently a foggy day and somebody hit him head on, killed him right on the spot. But the two units that actually responded to him was where he was going to work. So it was his own people, and they were a part of our club that responded to him. And, so one of the things that was said was, and he was an EMT, and he said, I wish I could have done more. There was nothing that could be done in that case. So, and then you look at, kind of how that, affects, and it's still to this day that even if they're not a part of the club anymore, they always post something about Matthew all the time. And so do I. It was just one of those things that really impacted us in the club, and it took us in it took us in a new direction. It kind of opened us up to a lot of different things. So, I mean, so that became the Matthew Bull, scholarship. And then from there, it was, a lot of PTSD, and it's kind of a big focus for us because, obviously we've had people pass away and, they're part of our forever chapter, but that was really the one thing that, impacted our club, especially so early on when it happened.
Gotcha. Wow. Hey, Bill, I wanted to ask you this, right? We touched on it a little bit earlier, and I apologize but this is for listeners who may have some interest in possibly joining the club, wherever they're located, if there's chapters in that area. But one is, you said it takes about a year to earn the patch. We talked about people who didn't earn their patch because of the stupid stuff that they did. But
Correct.
Can you tell our listeners, what is the criteria? Like, what is the expectation for person who starts riding with you guys and meets the criteria as far as the job itself? They have a license. They are in the medical field one way or another. Can you take us a little bit into what is required to get the patch for somebody?
I don't think our process is anything new that any other, that most clubs don't have, but, first thing is just kind of hang around with us. You see if we even are what you want, because, maybe our personalities are not what you want to be around. It's really a twofold thing. It's, do you feel comfortable around us, and do we feel comfortable around you? And just hang out and just be part of the club.
Right.
You're not going to have the patches, but just hang out with us. It's an easy thing to do, and get to know everybody, because like I said, this group is very, very tight, and it doesn't matter if you're from Boston, New York, Texas, it just doesn't matter. I mean, the thing is you want to have people that you ride with that you know and you trust. And so once you start doing the whole kind of hang around thing, and you want to be a part of the club, then somebody will sponsor you, and you'll have your sponsor, and then you'll start to prospect, and you'll get, kind of your bottom rocker, and that's about it. But you'll at least, have something on your back, and then you'll prospect for a year. And then once that year is done, there's obviously been, I think, some people that have kind of fast tracked, I think maybe within like 6-8 months, but those are the people that don't miss any meetings. Those are the people that don't miss any rides.
Right.
And, they're always, visible and there. And then after that, once you've been through that, then we'll come to a vote, and it has to be 100% vote to get in.
Awesome. Gotcha. Have you had any drawback with the bottom rocker from the 1% clubs? Because I know that that's usually not something that they are happy with when they see other motorcycle clubs with bottom rockers.
Well, our rocker is racing the Reaper, so it's not territory beast or, territory at all. And everybody that I've actually come in contact with has been nothing but, very complimentary.
Cool.
Just so I've met a few, 1%ers, and, they're obviously, those guys are, living the life, that's the lifestyle. They know that I'm not, that type of person. I just medical, I'm medicine, and I'm healthcare, and that's the bottom line. And like I said, even it doesn't seem to matter where I go with those patches. It's always somebody is like, that is really, really cool looking.
All right. Sweet.
Yeah.
So shifting gears a little bit to talk about impact. Are there any stories or specific instances that stand out to you for the impact that you guys have had so far on the motorcycle community and the healthcare community?
I think once we kind of share our story of, especially with, that tragic event that I talked about with Matthew, that, we certainly have that. I mean, we've obviously donated a fair amount of money to like Code Green, and I talked about the Greg Lindmark Foundation. That was one that we helped out early on. And so I think we're, and we're constantly growing. In fact, I believe today's Thursday.
Today's Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay. So there should actually be a board meeting that I believe they're going to be talking about. There's a organization, and I'm not too familiar with it. I'm going to hear about it probably after the board meeting, but they're going to talk to, and it helps with veterans, and it actually is now kind of gone out towards first responders also. So obviously we're just hearing about this. We're kind of excited about it. We're going to figure out if we're going to get behind it. So, I mean, with PTSD and everything, we are always looking for anything that we can do to help with that situation. And it's really like I said, it's kind of a big thing in the club, because even when people start to talk about, the Bull Scholarship and stuff like that, a lot of the people in the club have been with the club for a long time, and they know about, the Bull Scholarship. And if you guys, I don't know, did you guys take a look at the Facebook page and at all with if you noticed, it has nothing, like you look at our colors, and we have the big EMS patch, and it's blue.
Right. It's completely different.
Yep. But the whole idea was that yellow and black was his motorcycle. So that is kind of the foundation part of that too, and why it is, so different. Now, obviously we're set up as a non-for-profit, and we kept that totally separate, and that's set up as a non-for-profit also.
Yeah.
But the whole color scheme and everything, that was because of his motorcycle. So
cool.
There's a lot of meaning, when you start talking about things in the club, that I think as people, and this is part of that whole prospecting thing, like when when people start to come into the club, it's like, you have to know a lot of this kind of stuff. Like, what's the history behind the club? What is some of the meaning? Tell me some of the people in that chapter, because they're forever. They're the ones watching over us.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of meaning into it. And I think we've impacted our communities, and they certainly know about us.
Hey, actually touching on that a little bit, you had mentioned, as we spoke earlier, about like the different chapters and you guys meet at different places, but you started this group by yourself. You were on your own, and you said, you know what, I'm just going to start this, see where it goes. Now you have grown into chapters across the U.S. and even internationally. How did the expansion come about, and what does it mean to you as somebody who thought he was going to be kind of like a lone wolf, with the patch on, and now all of a sudden you've got this presence out there that others are joining? Take us a little bit into how the chapters started, and then, to today.
Well, like I said, I mean, it was kind of, as the club grew, I mean, it was kind of like, at first it was just kind of like you'd be excited, just, somebody's like, oh my God, I'm a nurse. I'd love to join and do this stuff. And you're kind of like, oh, okay, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And then kind of as the club grew, it was like, well, okay, that it's great that you're a paramedic, but you need to at least bring 3 or 4 other people along with you. If you're going to start a chapter, you're going to start to do this because,
Right.
for a while there, we were kind of like, we'll do some nomads. And then we were kind of like, how do we keep track of nomads? I mean, we don't know what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't even know if they really care about this stuff. They could just get the patch and, put it in their closet and never bring it out again. So, that's when everything started to really change. And it was like, you got to have at least 4 or 5 people if you're going to start a chapter. You're going to have to stay in contact with us all the time. We will want to see, that you're doing stuff. We may send representatives from other chapters to go and just make sure that everything is going as it should be, because now at least we're big enough now, there's probably, if you're going to pop something up in a state, we're probably very close to you somehow, some way. So we can kind of keep a better eye. And it's not even just making sure you're doing everything you're supposed to, just making sure that you even just enjoy being in the club. Do you feel like you're being a
Makes
part
sense.
of it? Do you feel like your voice is being heard? A lot of that kind of stuff.
So was it social media presence on your end when you started this, or was it a word of mouth that spread?
I would probably say that it was probably maybe a little bit of both. I would certainly say the social medias had a lot to do with the beginning of it. As it was, I would say the social media, because they would see the
Right.
patch. I think the first thing that everybody kind of launches at is, oh, that's a really cool patch. I'd like to wear that. So I think that was probably a big part of it. They saw the patch and then they were like, oh yeah, I'm interested. So social media, and I'm not super techie by any stretch of the imagination.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm obviously a kind of a big enough dork that I made, the patch and that kind of stuff. I did the website. So, I mean,
Like you said before the episode, you know enough about some things to be dangerous.
exactly. And that's exactly what I was dangerous. And you see what danger got me was, a pretty good sized club.
Right.
Hey guys, the show will be back in 1 minute right after a word from our sponsor.
Hey, one gang, tired of feeling like your butt's taking more of a beating than your bike on those long rides? Introducing Butt Buffer, the ultimate solution to saddle soreness. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. These cushions are made from medical grade viscoelastic polymer, scientifically crafted to eliminate pressure points and keep your circulation flowing. No more numb nuts or numb butts. And here's the best part. Butt Buffer cushions are made right here in the US for the last 30 years. From Harleys to Hondas, we've got a cushion to fit your ride perfectly. Plus, with styles ranging from sleek pebble polymer to luxurious sheepskin, there's a Butt Buffer for every rider's style. Get your Butt Buffer today at buttbuffer.com. That's buttbuffer.com. Your butt will thank you, and you'll ride longer and happier. We've got your butt covered.
Yeah. That's funny. So, Bill, you talk about wind therapy, as a good way for healthcare workers to wind down from that day-to-day grind. How do you personally balance that time to ride your bike and your responsibilities? Do you find yourself riding as much as you'd like to? And what have you kind of done as far as setting intentions go to make time for both things?
So to be honest with you, I don't think there's ever enough time to be on the motorcycle because that's where I would spend all of my time.
Me too.
Okay, good answer.
I just, that's where I'm happiest. I'm free and I can just kind of, a lot of the time I can just kind of sit and unwind and just think about maybe nothing at all, or maybe it was just something that I seen,
Clear your head.
that I'll sit there and kind of go over in my head, because, like part of the whole, especially being in medicine, I mean, you're always trying to get better and be better. And so I would, there was nothing like getting on the motorcycle and maybe just sitting there thinking about a case or something that you had. And, you just, at least on the motorcycle, you're kind of free, you got the wind and just kind of opens your mind and you're like, I could have better, could have done that better, So I used to work a ton. Like that's all I ever did. In fact, when I was at one point in time, I was actually working at a level 1 trauma center here in Rockford. And on my days off, I would go across the river and go work in another level 1 trauma center. So I was almost working probably like, I don't know, it's hard to tell. Some days I was so crazy. I was like 4, 5, maybe 6, 12-hour shifts a week.
Wow.
Just to, it was a lot of it was obviously, you need money. Everybody does. But I mean, the basic part of it though, was that when I worked at the one level 1 trauma center, we were known for penetrating trauma. So, then I was, I felt like I was pretty good with all of that. So then I on my days off, I would go and work over at the other level 1 trauma center, and they were right next to the highway. So they had a lot of blunt trauma over there. So I got really kind of a good mixture of, penetrating and blunt trauma and, working with different trauma surgeons and stuff. And, you end up learning a lot, especially in those big hospitals. So I didn't obviously ride a lot when I was doing that kind of crazy stuff.
Sure.
Now into my life, I've got like a really good schedule. I work every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night shift. And then I've got Sunday till, Thursday. I'm usually out on my motorcycle doing something.
Nice.
So that's a good stretch. And that just comes with being old, I think.
Experience, not old, experience.
We'll go with experience, but it's old.
Hey, Bill, quick question on this part. I mean, there's multiple missions for Road Docs. You guys you started this group to do many things, but one was also to promote safety and education within the motorcycle community.
Yeah.
Can you possibly go into maybe some educational programs or initiatives you've developed to help riders stay safe on the road, and maybe give us some examples or to take us a little bit into that part of the mission?
So there is, there's a organization called Accident Scene Management, and they talk, they have healthcare workers that will go out to the general public and, kind of teach them what to do if a rider does go down.
Right.
So we do have people that teach that. In fact, I used to be an instructor. There's a lot of people that are in medicine that love to teach. I am,
thankfully.
Yeah. And I kind of was that guy. I'm not so much that guy anymore, but we've got a lot of people in the club that still like to do that stuff. And accident scene management is a really good program for riders, especially, and it doesn't just go into if a rider goes down. I mean, it does a lot of, had a basic first aids kind of stuff that keeps you under the Good Samaritan laws and all of that stuff. Well, as a healthcare provider, you got to watch what you're doing because you are carrying a medical license. But as long as you stay under the Good Samaritan laws, you're always good. But yeah, there's a lot of people that like to do the teaching and stuff like that. So, yeah, in fact, I think Michigan actually had just done a class not too long ago. And, the lady that actually started that, Vicky, Her husband is actually a part of our club. That's Pan. And
So what do they do? Do they bring the community, or do they bring motorcycle community, like motorcycle riders and motorcycle clubs?
It's geared towards motorcyclists.
Motorcycles.
Yeah, it really is, because it talks about, like if somebody goes down on their motorcycles, what are you going to do? It talks about, well, all the basics, like
Correct.
your air breathing, circulation, your C-spine, all of that kind of good stuff. When we used to teach it, we would actually set it up. So, like we did it with Harvard Fire. So, because the community at large, when they start to see, fire trucks and ambulances start to pull up, I mean, they automatically just kind of jump back, which, you're going to let that first responder obviously do what they're supposed to do.
Right.
But when we did the classes, we would actually, have the accident. We'd have, mannequins out there. We'd have people, maybe it's a sucking chest wound, the blood, motorcycle laying over, and we would bring an ambulance out too. So then people, in the general community could actually sit there and see, like what healthcare professionals do, especially out in the, come with a lot of stuff, but they would give them an opportunity to look in the back of an ambulance, see, kind of the stuff that they have, and kind of talk to them and, what they do. So usually I would, it was kind of funny because I had Larry, who I had mentioned before, who passed away. He would always kind of start the classes out. He was an EMT, and then he would kind of hand it over to me, and then I would take the class. He always started the classes, and then I would end the classes. Yeah, it was good for the community too, because then they could, the hard part about teaching, especially for me, is sometimes I go way too high.
Right. Your medical knowledge is so far above the normal Joe Schmo like myself. So yeah, of course, it makes sense.
Right. So, and it was always nice having Larry, because he would always bring me right back down to earth. And then, he'd start talking like, oh, you know what? Yeah. I'm talking about the triad, but I would just want you to just, forget about what I just said. And I just want you to just focus on the simple stuff like airway and breathing and stuff like that. So yeah, gosh, now that you guys got me talking, the club has gone in, many different directions, and we do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Now that you think about it, that's funny. So that goes into the next question that I have. But first, there's just a fun memory. As a Boy Scout, one of our favorite things that we would do is go to the hospital, and they would bring like special effects makeup people in for training, and a lot of the community would come because it was a really fun event. But we would be, the one year there was like a school bus incident where a bunch of us young kids as Boy Scouts, they put special effects makeup on us. So my two brothers would be, they had gashes across their face and all kinds of crazy wounds and bandages and stuff. That was a really cool thing to do.
Funny story. I was teaching, we had this class, and it was on, I was teaching with one of the burn surgeons. It was pediatric burns and what to do. And I was sitting there with one of the girls, she was not in healthcare yet, but I was sitting there doing all the makeup on her and all of that kind of stuff. And we had, the burn looked, by the time I was done, I'm going to give myself credit, and I usually don't do this. It looked good.
It looked good.
Yeah, it looked good. And the funny part is that person that was not in healthcare that, helped with that, with the bird stuff, she is now a nurse in the cath lab.
Nice.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So, it's pretty cool when you start doing some of that stuff, and the people that you run into and you meet and stuff. Yeah. So, and the funny part is that every time I see her, because if I do see her, it's usually bad, but it's something that we still talk about to this day.
That's cool. That's cool.
That is cool. It's such a cool event. It's a fun thing to be a part of. So looking forward, what are your plans and goals over the next few years? Do you have any expansions or initiatives that are coming down the pipeline that you're excited about?
Like I said, there's the board's having a meeting, I think tonight, that's going to be about PTSD and veterans and first responders. So I don't want to talk, say too much about it because I got to make sure that the
Sure.
club is going to be behind it. As far as anything else goes, to be quite honest with you, I'm kind of in the I'm just kind of riding along with the club now. I'm kind of sitting back and like I said, this is kind of an exciting year because we've got this PTSD initiative that we're going to hear about, or the board's going to hear about tonight.
Right.
And then, like I said, we've got brand new elections that are going to go on. So we're going to have a new national president, come October for the Road Docs too. So this is going to be kind of interesting stuff. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on.
Definitely.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is. And like I said, it's always good to get new blood in there, new visions for the club. Absolutely. Because somebody else is going to have probably much better ideas than I will.
Before we get into the speed round questions, I know this is kind of a weird question to answer because, you're still living in it and you love this club just as much when you started it as where you are now, more on the board side of it. But kind of looking back at the work you've done with Road Docs, what do you hope, future generations and remember most about what you started, in addition to what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind when you decide to, hey, you know what, I'm done riding. This is it for me. And, continue the work that we started here and our team has built. So what are you looking back at it? What do you want people to remember most about? I'm going to get into the artifact part, but Bill, tell us a little bit about what you'd like to leave behind.
I think as it stands right now, I think even like if I was to be gone tomorrow, I think the club has already done so much good stuff. Cause even just talking to you guys, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. We teach excellency management. Oh yeah. The club has done pretty much everything and more than I could have ever dreamed of. I mean, it's really amazing to get a bunch of people together that love motorcycles that really just want to do good things.
Right.
So it's really cool where the club is at now. And as far as my legacy, I'm not really interested in that. I just want the club to kind of continue to go on. And I just want it to kind of help people and bring people together because, and I will say this, medical people are kind of a different bird. They're kind of gypsies. They are very hard headed. They're always right in everything.
Right.
So to see a bunch of healthcare people, come together is really kind of cool. And I think we've impacted, where people just don't think about, police or fire. I think, they do think about healthcare people.
That's right. EMTs. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep,
and
absolutely. Which is awesome. So, all right, take us into the nickname artifact before we get into the fun part of the speed round questions. How did you get the nickname artifact?
Well, first, I'm old.
So you ain't that old, man. We're probably the same age.
So, artifact actually is kind of a crazy part is I used to game a long time ago. Did you guys video game at all?
Oh, yeah.
I don't, but maybe Ben does. He's got younger kids.
Yep.
So, actually, when I came home from the military, there was a bunch of Marines, and we were all military, and we would get online, and it was a good way to, chat with each other. And we would just play video games and talk, for, good lengths of time.
Right.
And at one point in time, I was part of this group called RFT, and what they called me Artifact, because if I ever, once we always played first person shooter. So once I shot somebody, it'd be like, oh, the only reason you got me was because of Artifact. So that actually kind of blossomed into in the medical field. They started to send some of the newer paramedics to me, and and obviously I'd been doing emergency medicine for quite some time,
Right.
and they would bring me rhythm strips, and they'd be like, "So what do you think about this?" And I'd be looking at it, and I'm like, "You're in the back of a box and you're bouncing all over the place. It's Artifact. The only thing that I care about, if it's a straight line, worry about that. If it's all over the place, worry about that." And so then it just started to blossom into this. Just let what, maybe you should go and talk to that guy about your rhythm strips, especially Artifact over there. Don't talk.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And a rhythm strip is the EKG.
yeah, it's the
reading,
tracings of your heart.
Right.
And,
Okay.
it depends on what leads you're looking at, what you're seeing. But, when you're bouncing all over the place, or the patient's, not sitting still, those rhythm strips are going to show Artifact.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that was one of my favorite things to point out to these guys is quit looking at, some of this stuff. It's Artifact. Look at your patient, don't pay attention to so much to the screen.
Right. All right. Thanks for clarifying
There's a
that.
deeper meaning
Yeah,
in
'cause
that.
machines only do so much. It's the actual patient. So yeah. And then it just, like I said, everybody just started, it was Artifact, but most of everybody just calls me Artie.
Artie. All right. Cool. All right, my man. You ready? You ready for the speed round?
Yeah, let's see what I can do.
All right. Buckle up, man. This is going to be the fastest 2 minutes of your life.
Okay.
All right, Artie. What's your favorite motorcycle you've ever owned or ridden, and why is it the Interceptor?
So that is good, but I will have to say that my favorite, well, God, I can't narrow it down to one. All of my Harleys are my favorite.
Well, what do you have now? Name the three that you got in your garage.
All right. I have a 2010 Harley Davidson Ultra that has about 95,000 miles on it.
Nice.
So obviously that's a favorite for going,
Touring.
anywhere
Yep.
where long trips.
Yep.
I also have a 1998, which is the 95th anniversary Road King.
Nice.
And
Sweet.
that was the older style, but it has the old Evolution
Yeah,
motor
the
in it.
Evos, man. I'm an Evo fanatic, so I've got a couple of Evos myself.
Exactly. And I mean, the Evos run forever. They sound cool.
Best motor Harley ever built.
The best motor they ever
I
made.
agree.
Yes.
Yep.
And then I also have a 2003 100th anniversary Springer.
Ooh.
So
Where you
Yeah,
like the heritage Springer, classic Springer?
yes. Yep.
Oh man, I love those. Yep. Cool.
If those things, I believe there was only 400
They made a little bit more than that. It was I think it was 12
in the metal blue.
Oh, you got the gunmetal blue one. Okay, got it.
Yeah. That's where the uniqueness is of it. In fact, the Harley Davidson Museum actually kept one of the gunmetal blue Springers and kept it there. And I believe it was only 400 some odd made in that color. They did come in, the black and all of the silver black.
You're talking to a complete Springer fanatic. I love Springers. I've got two of them myself. I've got a 07 CVO Springer, which was the first year of the 21-inch tire. They made them for 3 years, then they stopped, and that's a beauty. And I got a 97 also Evo Softail Springer.
You got a
What's that?
Is that the blue stripe or red stripe?
I've actually got the red.
Oh, that's the beautiful one. Oh my God. Those are in demand, my friend.
Man, big time. Yep.
I absolutely love it. And of course, now you've combined it with the Evo, so even better than
I
mine.
know, man. I just love Evos. I just love the older bikes. There's nothing new today. I mean, yeah, I know the performance and technology is awesome on them compared to but I don't know, man. It just, to me, it just,
You know,
it doesn't,
also-
you pull up anywhere and you've got 18 million black road glides and street glides and they all look the same, and then you pull up in like a nice 90s Evo, whatever, and you like, everybody will walk over to that and go, man, that's a badass bike, you know? So,
I was going to say those springers always bring a lot of attention. They look
always.
cool. And you know, it is that old technology that they've got on that front of that bike. So I have to give some people credit because they'll ride those things across, you know, the country.
Yeah.
I am not that guy. I have to have my bagger, but anytime that I can get out on my springer, I absolutely love it.
I did a 4,800 mile trip on a Springer, but that was also about, what am I, 53? So I think I was probably like 40 at the time. I wouldn't do it right now. You know, I'm good with my Road King. It's a little more comfortable for me, but yeah, for sure.
I'm going to have to give you all the props in the world on that one because that's a long ride on a Springer.
Yeah, for sure.
Still feeling it. All right, next question. If you could have any superpower while you're riding, what would it be?
Oh, I don't even need a superpower while I'm riding. I just want knowledge. I don't need anything. The only superpower I want is just to get people out of my way.
We do.
Like,
We'll give you a superpower. We'll create James Bond headlight machine guns that come out.
Oh, there you go. Either that or give me magnet.
Yeah,
Because
then
then
you just take them out.
To the side.
All right.
Best place you've ever ridden and why?
You know, I've been to so many beautiful places. I had a recent trip out to Montana.
Nice. I love it out there.
Nice.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Bear Highway. Funny story is though, we were heading out there. We got into the mountains, the Bighorn Mountains, and it started to actually hail.
Wow.
And, but you know what? It is still a story that me and my buddy talk about to this day. It was absolutely beautiful. It was, we got pounded on by the hail but the trip out there in Wyoming and Montana, the mountains,
Breathtaking, man. Breathtaking. Yep,
country.
absolutely.
really shows how small you are, because it's just these big, huge mountains and it's just absolutely beautiful.
I always tell people, man, you don't need to leave to go to another country to take a vacation, man. You want to see beauty. Obviously, on a motorcycle, it's a completely different world. But go out to Montana, go out to Wyoming, go out to the Dakotas, and enjoy. I mean, it is just breathtaking on every corner and every right and left turn you make, man. It's your mouth is just wide open.
Yeah, and I just because we went out there and I believe we did it in June. And when you go up those mountains, man, it's just amazing how it changes. And we started off in short sleeve shirts. By the time we got up, to the 10,000, we've got 4 layers on.
That's right.
Place, and you're seeing
Absolutely.
just breathtaking.
Yeah.
Just breathtaking.
It's crazy how much it changed in elevation.
And I will have
What
to say
is
this.
your
Tennessee is another place that really was, quite nice.
The Blue Ridge Mountains.
Yeah, it was a beautiful ride through there. I'll have to give that area credit to Virginia. Yeah, beautiful areas because we did the Tail of the Dragon, the Blue Ridge, and then we went to the again, and absolutely gorgeous out there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's my stomping ground. What is your guilty go-to pleasure for an alcoholic beverage? And if you don't drink, what's your go-to snack?
Okay, so the beverage is a spotted cow.
Spotted cow. What is that?
Spotted Cow is only made in Wisconsin. It's nuclear beer. It's very, very popular.
It's an IPA.
It certainly is. It's and like I said, it's amazing how many people actually know about Spotted Cow. Because even like when I go with the club, and everybody's like, "Oh, can you bring us some spotted cow? And it's like,
Nice.
absolutely. So that is my go-to drink. And like I said, the nice part about it is only made in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. It says New Glarus Brewing Company does not distribute any of its beer outside of Wisconsin. So it's an exclusive.
It is. And and you'll catch people like in Illinois that are always going up there, getting cases of it. It's just one of the best beers I've ever had.
That's awesome.
And I always get a 2-beer limit when I go out on the motorcycle.
Yeah.
So I can stop and have my 1 beer and then maybe stop at another place and have another.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
If only everybody could follow that rule, that would be great.
Yes.
Okay, if you could time travel, which era would you visit and why?
Oh my God. You know what? I wouldn't go back too far, I guess, because I don't know. There's something about the 60s and those muscle cars and, you start talking about that kind of stuff, even the motorcycles back then. I just, anything that's old and classic to me, I don't know what it is, but I'm totally drawn to it. I think you look at a lot of the stuff nowadays and we kind of touch base on it, like the new Harleys and, they just don't do a lot for me. And I know it comes out, they've got stuff and it just doesn't do much for me. But you look at like some of those old Harleys, even the 30s and 40s, my God.
The 40s was just, I mean, when those, when the knuckle and the pan and I mean, even the flatheads, I mean, when those are starting to develop, I mean, that body style, those old Springer front ends, my God, it's like, I don't know. It's like if you've got 2 posters on your wall, it's of motorcycles, it would be from that era.
Absolutely. There's just something about those bikes. I don't know what it is, but I'm totally drawn to it. Even the kind of the outfits that they wore and everything. I mean, it was a kind of the golden era for all of that stuff.
Agreed.
And like I said, I got nothing against the newer stuff. I don't, but it just doesn't do much for me.
Same. Everything changed in the 40s. Favorite motorcycle movie of all time?
Oh God. Well, you know what? I'll have to say I just got done watching The Bike Riders.
What'd you think?
So, actually it's pretty good. My wife didn't have much, to say about it.
It's a slow burn.
Yeah, but for me, I would, this will show you what kind of dork I am, though, but I've already seen it 4 times. So,
nice.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I mean, anything with motorcycles in it, and you see that kind of stuff, and they did a great job with kind of the patches and the club culture and all of that kind of stuff. And I don't know what it is, but yeah, you put a movie with motorcycles on it, and I think everybody's got their.
That's right.
Kind of
right.
Yeah, everybody's got kind of their thing, and I think everybody goes back to the red, white, blue.
Yep. Anybody who loves motorcycles, absolutely. Anytime there's a movie on that's got some form of bikes, I mean, you just watch it because you're just fascinated with the motorcycles themselves.
Yeah, it did bring in some of the club culture, I guess.
Absolutely,
But
yep.
just look at those bikes, man. It's just where I'm at all the time.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. Who was your movie crush as a teenager?
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, I would probably have to just go back to the, probably Farrah Fawcett and all of that kind of stuff. That's probably where it would be. Yeah. Because that was Charlie's Angels and all that. So I was tuning into that. So
Yeah,
sure.
I think every boy from my generation had a Charlie's Angels poster on their wall.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I would probably have to say that. I was kind of a different kid because, like I said, my head was probably into basketball and bikes at that point in time. So,
all right.
Right on. If you could meet and have dinner with one person, past or present, who would it be?
Oh, well, my goodness. I would probably love to dive into like Albert Einstein's brain.
Yeah.
I think that is somebody that just changed this world in so many different ways. I would just like, I've obviously never been that smart, but to actually talk to somebody that, that has impacted the world the way they have, I think would probably be who I would like to talk to.
And to see how their brain works just in regular conversation.
That'd be
so cool.
Yeah, I think so too, because even like when you, like in our own present modern day, like Elon Musk, like when he starts to talk, I mean, he just talks in totally a different way.
Right.
He's so far above you, and his brain is just, thinking about other stuff. And none of this stuff came about with, obviously, Einstein was one of the huge ones in that whole cascade. So yeah, I would just love to see what his mind was like.
Definitely. All right. One law you would change if you were president to impact the motorcycle community.
Well, I'm not a helmet wearer. I don't wear helmets. So if that's the one thing that I could change, I would just like to have everybody have their own option.
Right.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Shit. So you're a an ER doctor and you don't wear a helmet? Damn. Usually the doctors who ride always yell at people who don't, in a good way, not in a bad way, just from shit that they've seen, and stuff that goes in and out of the hospitals.
Yeah. So, well, the funny part is, even as an ER nurse, I mean, the people I work with always ragged on me all the time. But I honestly, when I get out on my motorcycle, I don't want to have a helmet on. I just love the freedom of it, the wind blowing,
Right.
Like when you go into certain areas of, especially up in northern Wisconsin, it's just beautiful up there. And just the smell of the clean air and stuff. Oh my God. Yeah. And you can't experience all that stuff with a helmet, but and I do have a full face helmet. So I will say that. And, usually when I go on my long trips, I always wear it, but the helmet is cool too, because I can kind of just sit and think to myself and I don't hear a lot of stuff, but with the helmet off, just to listen to the pipes, like I told you, I've got my 2010 bagger, but I've never turned down the stereo. I don't want to listen to that. I just want to listen to the rumble of the
bike. Yeah, that's kind of an annoying trend where they've got these, subwoofers and stuff on these newer bikes.
Oh, yeah. And hey, I'm all about trends because that's how we came up with choppers and, they're doing cool stuff and big wheel baggers. But yeah, I don't need to hear your music, 3 blocks away.
Exactly. All right. If you could get up on stage and sing or jam with one band, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. I'm kind of a Foo Fighter fan.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
Heck yeah.
I do like to listen to them. Honestly, I'm not a guy that just listens to rock. I listen to everything. I love to listen to Enya and stuff like that. I listen to very soft music and country rock music. Anything is really up my alley.
All right, cool.
But Foo Fighters, for some reason, that dude has really done some stuff, and he makes some good music.
Dave Grohl is a madman. Do you see where he broke his arm and still continued to finish the show?
Oh my God, no! Really broke his arm.
Oh gosh, yeah. There's a whole. That's the 10,000 foot view of it, but yeah, he's a madman. And his whole history is just incredible.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's part of the whole thing for me is just kind of the whole history of him starting out kind of Nirvana and stuff. And it would be kind of cool to sit down and talk to him and see what another person to talk to, right? About his views, music and how he kind of grew up in music. Yeah, it'd be fascinating.
Yeah, he's definitely a down to earth and humble kind of guy. I'd love to have dinner with him.
Yeah, right.
Here's a fun one. What's your favorite prank you've ever pulled on a fellow rider?
Oh, well, I don't know if it's really a prank, but So I guess here's another part of the club that I should probably tell you guys about. We have it started actually with our second national run, which was here in Wisconsin. And somebody brought a mannequin, and it was a CPR mannequin. So that's kind of our favorite thing to do. And Timmy has his own Facebook page because we pass Timmy around to all the different chapters. And so you'll see somebody literally driving around with this mannequin.
Say it as a passenger.
Yes.
That's funny.
Yeah. In fact, the first year we had Timmy, he fell off the motorcycle. So then we decided he needs a helmet. Then he was getting strapped in. And so now it's just created this whole chaotic thing where people have to take Timmy and they have to, kind of follow and take pictures of him, what he's doing.
Right. That's funny.
Yeah. Only a medical club, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. Now with spooky season too, you'll start to see people with skeletons on the back of their bike and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty funny too. But yeah, this whole CPR mannequin, oh my God. I don't know how this club came up with it, but it was hilarious. And it's still going to this day, which is kind of funny.
It's funny. So if you could challenge anybody, a celebrity or anybody, to a race, a motorcycle race, who would it be?
To a motorcycle race? Well, I'd probably have to go with maybe Keanu Reeves. He's good with motorcycles. And I think he would be another guy that's just fascinating to.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yes. So I would love to challenge him, but as soon as I got done with this race, I would have to sit down with him for hours just to talk to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, another guy that seems, really kind of humble, and
he really is. Yeah, he's always out of the spotlight, man, and he's a good one.
Yeah, and humble, and he really is into motorcycles.
Oh yeah. He's got his own brand, Arch Motorcycles.
Right.
Yep.
So that would probably be the guy I would have to go for. Who's the guy off of The Walking Dead? He's into motorcycles.
Is he? I never watched that, so I'm not sure.
Can't think of his name because he even came out with he had a series on his motorcycle adventures. I can't think of his name. Sorry about that. I got sidetracked. See, this is the problem especially with ER people. There's that little thing off to the side, and there we go.
Yeah, I don't know the actor's name, but you're talking about Daryl Dixon, right?
Yes, there you go. Yes. Yeah, Daryl. Yeah, he's big into motorcycles.
Big time. That would be a fun one. Okay, last dinner ever, what would it be?
Oh, I would probably I'm a pretty simple guy, so it'd have to be a T-bone steak and
there we go.
Potatoes and veggies, and I'm pretty much a happy guy. And throw in that cow, please. Yes.
Okay, besides the One Gang Worldwide podcast, what's your favorite podcast? Or if you're not big into podcasts, what do you tune into to pass the time?
So I'm not really a big podcast kind of guy. If I tune into any, and I kind of I'm a guy that likes to get into, I like to go occasionally watch movies and stuff like that. I'm kind of a movie guy. Okay. I'm not one of those people that can do series. It's too committed.
Yeah.
You're going to bring me back week after week and leave me hanging all the time. I'm not sure. I'm just not into that.
Right.
So,
yeah,
just give me a good movie. Like maybe even today, I don't know. I'll probably have to go see Alien Romulus.
No, yeah.
Just came out, so it's supposed to be good. I've heard good things about it. So yeah, that might even happen today.
Okay. All right, cool.
Cool. You made it through. You survived, Artie.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like I told you guys, I do not do interviews. I would rather leave it up to the guys in the club because without them, the club wouldn't exist.
And without you, the club was never founded. So it's our pleasure in regards to you, number one, giving us that opportunity to chat with us and our audience, obviously, to kind of fill them in regarding your organization. So it's been an honor, and one is to meet you, but two is to get to know you. So just from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for giving us your time. And, we wish you nothing but success with the organization and everything that you guys do, your whole team does every single day for everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And thank you for the opportunity to come on and even talk about the club. I really do appreciate it. And it was kind of fun because like I said, it brought me back to, remembering some of the stuff that, we have done. There's a lot of stuff that kind of opened my eyes, even in this interview, just like, oh yeah, I remember this. So
Right.
Yeah, it was really, really fun to talk to you guys.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Yep. Appreciate it, guys. Thank
All
you.
right. Take care, buddy.
Thanks, Artie.
Take
Have
care.
a good one.